Hello, I'm Tanya.
And I'm Jason.
And we're from
the Board Game Nook.
Today we're going to talk about Timelancers from Party Tales. It is a 1 to 4 player game.
It's resource collection, set gathering, and recipe fulfillment, all with a time travel theme.
Now let's
make history.
Let's remake history. Now, as you can see, this game is a little bit of a table hog, as it should be. We are messing around with the timeline, and that can be a very complicated process. The general aspect of this game is we are not necessarily good people.
We're not necessarily bad people.
Well, we are, we are mercenaries. We will do whatever you want for the biggest bid, and we are the only ones that can do it because we are genetically modified humans. We're the ones that can travel back and forth through time without dying, unlike normal humans. Now, of course, back in the day, the government and big corporations used us to mess around with the time for their own personal gain. And since that probably isn't the best idea, it is
Time
now...
travel was then outlawed.
It's outlawed. It is illegal. And now you're not supposed to do that anymore.
However, we still exist, and we're ready to work for the highest bidder.
We're like the underground faction that if you pay us enough money, we will find the resources, we will jump back in time, and we'll do whatever it is that you ask us to do. Hopefully, if we're good at our job, because that is really how you win the game. The best Timelancer gets the most merits win. All right?
Okay, so how do we collect merits, or how do we do our job? Well, on your turn, you're going to get 3 actions. Now, those 3 actions can be split up on the city board, your time machine, one or the other, or both.
Yeah.
Basically, if you're moving along through the city, it's generally collecting resources. So you move to a spot, you pay some money, you collect those resources. Your time machine is a little bit different. Your time machine is where you're going to be repeating or revising events. We'll come back to that. Mm-hmm. But just know that that occurs in your time machine. Otherwise, there's a few other things that you can do there. You can reserve events. You can flip over city tiles or change how the city develops. Or you can change an event that's already been placed in your time machine from revise to repeat it. Mm-hmm. Now, to change history, you need to first have the resources.
You get the resources by moving on city tiles. You cannot end on someone else's tile, and you definitely don't want to end on the enforcer's tile, because those are the guys that are hunting us and going to arrest us for breaking the law.
On each card, there's a set number of resources. Along with the resources will be a time span. So you have modern ages, middle ages, and ancient times.
That's correct. Which again, guys, bear with us. It's hard to keep track of time travel, okay? But essentially the cards will have 1953 on it, 1868, big events that happen in history that change the course of time.
Once you have the correct amount of resources, you move to the corresponding spot in your time machine, and then you decide whether you're going to revise that event or repeat it. And both have varying consequences for that action. You're going to take the card, you'll pay the resources, and then you'll place it in your time machine, which acts sort of like a combo building, because later on, if you move to that same location, you then get that benefit.
And that card doesn't necessarily have to go on the place that you went. If you went to a modern space on your time machine, that card actually is in chronological order. So you're placing it in different places possibly on your timeline.
Yes, you build your timeline as you go. The one caveat being everything has to remain in chronological order.
Yes.
There are military events, social events, science events, and cultural events. And for the most part, they're similar in their deck composition. They do have interesting names and events, such as building the Great Pyramids, or
the JFK assassination,
which is, it's interesting.
And depending on the card, like let's say a military card, probably the resources you're going to need are weapons. Whereas for a social event, you're probably going to need a disguise more so than not. If they're a much older card, like an ancient card, you are probably going to have heavy disguise and a lot more resources, because it takes a lot more energy to go further back in time, a lot less resources if you're in more modern times. So let's talk about how to win the game. Now, because we are up for the highest bidder, we do have these goals that are given to us of this is how you are going to prove your worth. You need to have 2 green cards, 3 red cards, 2 yellow cards. Everyone's going to be different. And at the end of the game, the person to fulfill all 4 of those tasks first,
triggers the end game.
Triggers the end game.
Yes, you can trigger the end game, interestingly, on your turn, or it could be triggered by someone else, or even the enforcers can trigger your end game. It simply means that everyone else, going back to the start player, will get to finish off their turn, so it's equal number, and then the game will end.
What we want you to keep in mind is that changing time creates absolute chaos. Okay, it is chaotic to the point where you're probably not going to be able to plan a lot of your turns, and lots of things happen. Lots of things. You change one thing, and it does have a domino effect.
Yes. So if you go back in time and you just repeat an event or attend it, let's say you go to the JFK assassination and everything takes place the way it should. So that's called repeating the event. You pick up the card, you put it in your time machine. There's nothing else that happens with it. However, if you go back in time and revise an event, let's say you prevent the assassination, then every event chronologically that has to do with
that
card will then change. It'll flip to the other side. So maybe you repeated a future event and now it's been revised. I know it's confusing, but there are great how to play videos that explain it a lot better.
We don't want to go into super details of the exact rules here.
Just know that if you change the past, the future will change, which can also alter your end game conditions. Maybe you're very close to winning and then they flip and you're no longer close to winning anymore. The other thing that occurs is, and this is also pretty cool, is the city itself changes.
There are colors. The city tiles are colored as well. So you revise or change a yellow card, then the yellow city tiles, and everyone else's yellow cards after that time on their timeline also move. So you're affecting everything, not just you.
Super chaotic and super fun, and sort of like the crux and the theme and how they decided to go about working with time travel in this particular game.
Yes. Now let's talk about the look of this game. Trust me, you guys, when you actually pull out this board game, you're going to be like, oh, yes, the insert. As every board gamer knows that it can be absolute hell when you're just shoving things into a box. It doesn't even fit. Everything has its place. It's beautiful. It's layered. It even has a diagram at the back of the manual. So lovely.
And it has a spot for, like, if you get the neoprene matte edition, and the tokens are all nicely sorted in these gears.
Yeah. Your figures themselves are lovely. They're plastic, they're clear token. You know where you are on the board, you know where other people are. They're nice and they're big and they're clear. What my favorite pieces were the resources. They were so cute. You can have like little sunglasses with a mustache for disguise and a walkie-talkie for communication. You have a little suitcase, a gun, a little baby
attaché.
Yeah, an attaché. Oh man, it was so you feel good when you collect your resources because I thought that they were so cute. The artwork on the cards is also quite good, and there's a lot of things they need to say on these cards, so we'll get into that in a second. But in general, we like the look of this game when it's on the table.
This game was mechanically very easy. 3 actions: move, collect, move, build, like a standard like recipe collection game. However, this game was not easy to teach. This game, it was a challenge. It's just, there is a lot going on, and a lot of the rules, like revise versus repeat, can be very confusing.
Yep.
There's the board that you can move on, and then there's your time machine, which you can move on. You need to bear in mind that you can only have 10 resources, but at the same time, you're trying to also do your faction goals, which means you've got to make sure you do some science, some cultural events, but not just that. They have to be revised, not repeated, or vice versa. You need to collect resources to make sure that you can do the events. And then once you do the events, you need to put them in your time machine. And
when you put them in the time machine on the card, it can be a little confusing when you're looking at all of the different things that are on this card. and it's across the table, right? This is the table hog to say, like, is that card ancient times? Is it modern times? It's hard to tell sometimes what it actually is and what the date is as well, right? Because remember, when you put that card down and if you revise it, you need to know what that date is so that you can say, are my other cards after this timeline? Can be kind of hard to see and a little bit confusing.
There are a lot of moving parts, both on your turn, like during your turn, and then if something gets revised, everything moves. And because there's so many choices, there's 12 cards that you can build. There's your abilities in your time machine. There's the reserve cards. There is so much going on that it can lead to long wait times between
Big
turns.
time analysis paralysis if you have players like that.
And sometimes in a game, that's perfectly fine because, well, person A is playing their turn. You can be planning out yours. You can't really do that in this game.
Nope.
The board state, at least at 4 players, changes so much from when you go
chaos.
to like the next turn. Cards that you may have been building towards are no longer available. City tiles may have flipped. Someone might have reserved the card that you really wanted to build. Yep. There's so much change between turns that you cannot plan your turn.
Yeah, and when other people are trying to do their own thing, they might be trying to screw over someone else to knowing they're keeping track of their cards, and that's not even the enforcer. The enforcer, you don't know till it's his turn to see where he's going to go, what he's going to do, and that can help you, it can hinder you, it can blow up a whole board, it can, lots of things that can happen.
So it's very hard to plan out your turn. So that means when it comes to your turn, you're going to be looking at a lot. You're going to be like, okay, what am I going to do? And because you're planning your whole turn in one time, it really bogs it down. Now, with experience with this game, I'm sure that would get better.
Yeah. Yes, but it's also timing. What a crazy concept in this game that when you move, you can't, you're not in your time machine. It's a literal physical machine. So you can't just be in the city. You have to move around the city to Timeline headquarters. Timeline headquarters is like the building that houses your machine. Then you can go into your time machine. Then you can mess around with the cards if you have the resources. If you have cards that you've already put down, maybe they'll help you with paying for less resources. Maybe it'll give you something immediately. There's just, a lot of things to keep track of, and sometimes it can be a little complicated.
Well, all times it's pretty complicated.
All times. And then you add luck.
Luck, yes. And luck is fickle. It can be good or bad. For instance, maybe someone builds a scientific card and then the next one that flips up is exactly what you need.
Yeah.
The reverse can happen. Maybe they wipe the array and you've been spending the last 2 turns building towards that card, or it's the last card that you need to complete all your faction jobs to win. There's also side jobs. Now, side jobs, they range from 1 merit to 3 merit. And there are distinctly better jobs. For instance, for ancient jobs, there's 1 of each color, and then there's a wild. Well, the wild is worth the same amount of points as any specific color, which means if you get the wild, it's just overall
way better, hands down,
and much easier to complete, which means you're probably going to get 3 more points, which is a lot in this game, than one of your opponents.
And you're very restricted to your movement and your resources. So it'll take you a long time to accumulate your suitcases and your disguises and your cameras. And then you get those things and then that card's gone. And you have to move something else. Often I found I was not honing in on any particular card. It was literally, what do I have and what can I pay for in this moment in time before someone screws me over? It's something else they're going to be doing. So luck can definitely have a huge factor in this. Obviously, the tiles are flipping themselves. The tiles are totally different every single time because you put them on randomly at the beginning of every game. These cards themselves just depends on luck of the draw, what you're going to get.
Now, all that being said, I mean, this game has long player turns.
Yes.
However, you really want to play this game with more players.
Yeah, with 2 players, it's fine. It's like, your Timelancers. You're getting a job and he's getting a job and you're just kind of going through. But of course, there's not a lot of interaction.
Concept is the revision of events.
Yeah. I mean, that's what you're doing. It is to mess around with the timeline.
So
now,
the chaos is a lot of fun.
And
more
people, it's just way more
chaotic. Example, I mean, during one of our games, I built the Titanic. And I was like, okay, I'm just going to repeat it. The Titanic needs to sink.
Yep.
Then the next player was like, nope. And they changed something in the past, which made revise my Titanic.
And
I was
like,
like,
ah, the Titanic is...
it survived.
It survived.
Yay! And everyone was happy.
But then the enforcer drew a card, and it just so happened to revise events before that timeline, and it's like, ah, my Titanic sunk again.
Take again.
Yeah.
So
everything is well with the world.
So the events are fun to tell the stories. Like, how did you prevent the Titanic from sinking? Or why did you make it sink? You're a bad person. So there's a lot of fun in that aspect.
There's also fun history lessons in there where you're just like, when was chess invented? What? The high five was invented in, I don't know, like the 70s or something ridiculous. Like, you are learning as you go along.
A little bit. I mean, they're general dates, of course. And so all that put together, you want the chaos, but because of that, and because the game end can be triggered not on your turn and accidentally or prevented, it can lead to a frustrating end game.
That's correct. I found the last turn for everybody, actually the last 2 turns for everybody, you're waiting a really long time because there's pressure of like, what do you do and do it in the proper sequence, and can you even do it to try to get enough
to
merit.
Milk out those last
and everyone
2
else
points.
is just waiting because they can't do anything until your turn is completed. And then the last turn for sure, it's not like you're getting a lot of resources. It's not like, and again, everything's kind of flying off the table. So
you might just draw a side job just to see,
if you can complete it or not. Like, it's just...
And if you do, that's just bonus points. Or maybe you wipe the board one last time and the perfect job pops up. And that can lead to a pretty big difference in points.
Mm-hmm.
And, like an extra 4 to 6 points, especially if you have the side job. So,
or you knew the end was coming. So you just you were gunning for that last resource that you needed. And it just never popped up.
Yeah. So we found that players at the very end were either very frustrated or very happy because they just had that lucky draw, and that lucky draw was the difference in whether or not you won. Like, our games were very close in points. I think the final one we played was within 3 merit of each other, which is 1 side job or 1 extra completed historical event.
So our experience was that if you are going to mess around with the timeline, expect great frustration and also fun times.
At first glance, this may look like a chaotic mess.
And it is.
However, there are strategies that you can employ during the game to retain your agency and to hopefully help you gain more merits than the next person. For instance, during the game, despite there being a lot of information, it is quite easy at a glance to see what the player to your left is going to do. So I may not be able to affect the person that goes before me, but I can definitely hinder the person after me. Mm-hmm. I can see what they've been collecting. I can see what events they're going for based off of their faction, and I can be like, okay, they need a scientific event, or they've been building towards this ancient event, and I can wipe the board. I can get rid of all of them.
You can also see across the table that if someone's almost very, very close to winning, you can say, I'm going to revise the events. So then their event card, like, again, these are not permanent, right? Because it needs 2 revised blue cards. So they can lose that point if you flip it on them. So there is certain things that you amongst everything else, you can also pay attention to where the board state is and what people are doing.
So there's quite a bit of player interaction. Even reserving a card that you know you're never going to build so your opponent can't do it, it's a great way to block them. Mm-hmm. There's also a lot of strategy in how you place your cards.
Yeah, I went with I didn't understand most of the concepts. Especially the first game, I just want to feel it out. So I stuck with ancient cards that I knew more than likely that if everyone else is messing around with the timeline, that my cards would not be flipped. And generally, when you have those ancient cards, they give you side effects for purchasing other cards that
resources. Well, as soon as a card goes into your time machine, it doesn't matter the era, but they all have bonuses, right? So that's sort of the way that you can combo build. And there is a strategy, like Tanya said, to build ancient era only, because you know that they're not going to be affected by others. Mm-hmm. Now, you could build a modern event, and you could get those out a lot faster. A whole bunch of quick modern events.
Yeah, because remember, they're cheaper because you're not going super far back in the timeline. So you can put a modern era card and put it way, way back in the ancient timeline section, knowing that you want to use those spaces, knowing that those cards are going to be bumped forward and unfortunately probably
and
revised and
multiple
remade
times.
several times. But you're using it as a strategy to kind of use the aspects on the card and the place that you're putting it on for those effects.
And there are certain resources like time locks that you can place down to make sure that if everything else changes around you, your event doesn't flip, and that really helps you.
Yeah. Especially near the end.
Game, especially near the end.
Protect your events that you did all that work and you don't want it to be changed. You're like, no, I'm keeping my time event, and the Titanic is in fact sunken and it remains that way.
There is also where you put them in your time machine. If you put your event on one of the easy actions of your time machine, for instance, there's one of the actions is to flip a city tile. Not only can you flip that city tile, but if the event has like collect 2 resources, you can go to that space multiple times very easily to collect a certain resource. So it's very important. Again, one more thing you need to pay attention to, where you place your things in your time machine.
And then the further back you go, which I'm not sure if we mentioned this or not yet, but there are crystals that are required to go back in time, and you'll need more crystals the further back in time you go. So to upgrade in your time machine, to upgrade those ancient spaces, so instead of paying 4 time crystals, which is a lot, you're only paying 2, that can have a huge outcome throughout the beginning. Like if you do that in the beginning, you're paying less throughout the rest of the game for placing on those tiles.
So there is quite a bit of strategy amongst the chaos. You just have to parse it out. And again, there's a lot going on. It's easy mechanically, but oh man.
Yeah, exactly. Oh man, a lot can be happening. You're dealing with ancient cards and they're dealing modern cards. And it's just fun times. Strategy absolutely can be implemented. Probably not in the first game, maybe not on the second. But as you get used to it, and if you have gamers that are, they understand the general concepts, you can get more and more in depth in this game. So, what did we think of Timelancers?
Timelancers was a bit of a mixed bag. There's a lot going on. It might seem at first that we disliked it, but I mean, we played it multiple times, yep. And players wanted to come back and try it again.
Yep.
The game has a very unique and cool take on time travel.
And it does try to accommodate for, if you go back in time and change this, what happens? And it does a very good kind of a theme around it where, we're not even supposed to be doing this, right? There's always that intrigue and that speed. This is not a slow collect your cards kind of game.
Yes.
We are doing this illegally and we're trying to get as much money as we can. Okay?
At first glance, it does look like it's a set collection game, but I would argue vehemently that this game is a race.
Yep.
You need to pick an objective, focus in on it, and get it done.
Try to get your stuff done while you are creating chaos and others are creating chaos around you.
If you're focusing on the whole board or doing too many things, the game will drag on too long. Yep. And ultimately you will probably lose. Mm-hmm. We found that the players that focused and concentrated and said, okay, I'm doing A, then B, and they didn't deviate like a race, the game flowed quite well. And it also led to a lot of cool moments and funny stories.
Yeah, storyline updates that you just didn't see coming. And that
and if you embrace the theme, like describing why you're going back in time and why this needs to be changed, it really added to the overall feel of the game, which is great.
We would not recommend people who have analysis paralysis to play this game, nor I would say even like really beginner gamers, because they would just be so overwhelmed with the iconology of the cards, where to put things, how to do it, why you're doing these things. It would just be a lot.
It would be too much.
Yeah.
However, if you're the kind of player that enjoys like a unique theme, high replayability with different city layout and the different cards, and you're a fan of like time travel, then this game might be for you. It's definitely worth checking out.
Yeah.
Just be aware that turns will take a long time, and during our playthroughs at least, it did overstay its welcome a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, you just gotta pay attention to that. Keep people on it. Sometimes maybe even use a timer if you feel like people are taking too long, and be like, "Come on, just make the choice," because at the end of the day, it'll be different by the time it comes to your next turn. So don't worry too much about that kind of stuff.
So if this sounds interesting to you, be sure to check out Timelancers.
That's right. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. Bye for now. Hello, I'm Tanya.
And I'm Jason.
And we're from
the Board Game Nook.
Today we're going to talk about Timelancers from Party Tales. It is 1 to 4 player. I thought you were doing a bit. I didn't know. Okay, let's try that again. Said no. I said no. I said I'm not doing it. I said you do it. And then we clicked okay. So when I say no, and then they say go.
To nothing. A review copy of Timelancers was provided for this video. Our opinions, as always, are our own.
Mm-hmm. So, if you'd like to help us grow, please like and subscribe.
Have a good day.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Goodbye for now.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye now.
What are you still doing here?